On my business card, I am a corporate president. In my mind, I am a game developer. But in my heart, I am a gamer.
Hello everybody and welcome to VideoGrimes, the only gaming podcast willing to get its hands dirty. I'm Sprinkle.
I'm JordanAech.
And I'm Stef.
We here at VideoGrimes would like to devote this episode to Satoru Iwata, president of the Nintendo Game Company, who passed away July 11th, 2015. Our hearts go out to his friends, colleagues, and family, and we wish them the best in this time of grief. He is survived by his wife, Keiko, and funeral services are planned to be held on July 17th. We have a lot to say about Satoru Iwata. There's so much to say, so let's jump right into it.
We couldn't be sadder here. I know I couldn't. He was very young. He was only 55. He died of cancer. It was very... I'm kind of at a loss for words exactly what to say exactly about that. But he was sick. He missed E3. He sent a note, and I guess I was unaware of that. I did not pick up on that. But we lost a legend in the game world. We lost a true innovator and someone who had vision and drive and personality, and I don't think that Nintendo or the gaming world will truly be the same.
Coming from someone who was never a huge Nintendo fan, not that I'm saying they're not great, but I just never played a lot of Nintendo games. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone knew him as the smiley guy that was president of the Nintendo Corporation and was just amazing and a gentleman and just the perfect person that you would want on your team.
Satoru Iwata, president, programmer, gentleman.
He was so very unique. Starting from his position at the company, he was the very first president of Nintendo that was not part of the Yamauchi family. His predecessor, Hiroshi Yamauchi, he held the position for over a decade. He started as president in 1949 and didn't step down till 2005 when Iwata became president. And I think that's very meaningful. Nintendo has been a close-knit company even now with their IPs. They're very protective, very territorial, and giving the reins to someone that isn't part of the family probably was a risk, but Iwata led the company to some very high highs. He saw through some lows as well. The GameCube era was not a particularly profitable era for Nintendo, although I will argue that it was a very good system and was very misunderstood. It was a loss for them, but he came back with the Wii and totally innovated gaming with something new that no one had thought of. And people, when there was a lot of criticism saying that this would be a gimmick, it wouldn't be well liked. It turned out to be the biggest selling gaming system probably ever. I'd have to verify that, but I'm pretty sure that it sold more units than practically anything.
Oh yeah, it kicked I know that the PlayStation 2 is the best-selling console of all time, but the Wii kicked the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox butt. And motion controls as a concept was really sought after in the video game world because like we got the Kinect out of it, which is for all the gripes that I have for the Kinect in terms of implementation and functionality, I think that it's a beautiful piece of hardware, and it's very good for game development. I know that there's some indie studios that use the Kinect for their motion capture, for having their characters move, and the PlayStation got the eye move. I think it's the eye move.
Yes, and they had the iToy in the PlayStation 2 era, I remember, and that was
Yeah,
a precursor of motion control. Didn't really go anywhere, but I can't remember exactly the PlayStation peripheral for that technology.
very innovative time for the company, and it's it's very bitter that uh, we lose somebody so talented and so driven.
What were some of the games that he spearheaded?
Well, I know from reading up on it that he actually was the savior of Earthbound, apparently. When Earthbound was
Really?
being developed and during late stages of development, they didn't know if they were going to be able to release it because it just had so many unbelievably ridiculous bugs. But apparently someone just brought it over to him and he was like, I can fix this, and was able to just rewrite thousands of hours of code to make the game run on the Super Nintendo, which is just a miraculous event.
And didn't he fix Pokemon Stadium as well?
Yeah, that's something else that I've read up on. In 1998, he had the same exact thing happen. Someone in the development team came to him and was basically like, the combat code is not working in Pokemon Stadium, dude. And he was like, okay, I got this, and pretty much rewrote everything and got it working in the course of a week by himself.
It's rare to see someone so talented and smart, but also very personable. He had a series of videos called Iwata Asks, where he would interview different members of the Nintendo development teams and things like that, and you would get an insight into what's going on at the company, and he became the face of that. And also Nintendo Direct. He would present new news to fans and gamers, and he kind of had this meme. He became a meme where he would say "direct to you," and he would always motion with his hands straight at the viewer, and it became this kind of catchphrase. And there's lots of things that set Nintendo apart from its competitors. Nintendo, at some levels, frustrate me, and I think it's because I want them to do so well, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But above all, they have this personality, and it's a combination of things. I believe nostalgia plays a big part of it. I grew up with Nintendo. Nintendo was my only video game system for a long time until I got a PlayStation. But even still, there's a connection. The characters that we've played for so long, like Mario and Samus and Metroid, Link and Legend of Zelda. These things have been around for most of our lives. Some out there all their life. And we have these connections. And then in the business side, you have someone like Iwata or Shigeru Miyamoto and Reggie Fils-Aimé that present themselves as actual faces of the company that interact with their fans. And I'd like to ask, can you name the president of PlayStation? or the president of Xbox?
Not off the top of my head.
No, I
The
don't.
only
I don't
person
know.
from Microsoft that I even know of is Major Nelson, and he's usually the one that's just constantly posting things to Twitter. I don't think anyone, honestly, knows off of the top of their head who the president is, because it's always just Major Nelson this and Major Nelson that.
If you know who the president is, tell us in the comments.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not that common to know the president of a company, but to go out of your way to almost make yourself an equal to Mario and Link and Peach, that says a lot. And when now that he's gone, the hole that has been left is really affecting, and it shows that he really believed in this company enough to want to integrate himself into it. And I can't speak to that enough. I can't really communicate how that makes me feel about Nintendo, about him as a person, and about the future of Nintendo.
He was a really humble, great guy, not just when it came to the fans and the gamers, but also to the people that worked for him. In 2014, Nintendo, it was right around the time that the Wii U came out, actually. They were having a lot of really big issues in the company, and they were taking a really big downturn, and he ended up taking a 50% pay cut to help the company come out of the hole in a way, and that was at the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year, the company had basically rebound and was doing just as good as it had been in the beginning.
And that takes real guts and a real honest commitment to your company, because here in America especially, there are many CEOs and many owners of companies, especially big corporations, that simply don't understand the concept of personal sacrifice for your company and your people. And that shows a great deal of honor and discipline to see that in a president, and it's very admirable.
He just really loved games. One of my favorite quotes from him is something along the lines of, on my business card, I'm the president. In my mind, I'm a game developer, but in my heart, I'm just a gamer.
Y'all.
If I were in possession of a 1-up mushroom, I would give it to you, Mr. Iwata.
Forever in our hearts, forever on our screens.
Y'all. I am sad because of this, but at the same time, I'm not worried about Nintendo, if you catch my drift, because I know that they have amazing people, and I know that Nintendo as a company wasn't just, one man. It was a collection of very talented, very close friends, and I have confidence that they'll do Iwata proud by continuing his legacy and continuing to shape Nintendo for the better. And if there's one thing that's been annoying for me in these past few years, it's the constant back and forth of console wars, especially amongst gamers, of which console is better. And it's moments like this when we lose somebody that is so talented, we need to remind ourselves that games are important, and it doesn't matter what system they're on or what company they're from. When the game industry does well, everyone wins, and especially when Nintendo does well, that pushes the other companies to become better. And I feel I can see that. When the Wii did so well against the other consoles, it forced Sony and Xbox to reevaluate their strategy and try to make things better, not for themselves, but for the gamers, and push out new innovations and make new things.
It's funny that you mention the other consoles, actually, because I thought it was it was kind of nice. It was expected, but also kind of nice. PlayStation, after hearing the news, posted thanks for everything you've done, and Xbox posted sad day for Iwata fans. Family, friends, and gamers everywhere. His passion, creativity, and leadership elevated the industry. So sad all around for all
Yeah.
game players.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about the console wars that have been going around for a really long time. It seems as of late that Nintendo has kind of been disinterested with that side of the business because they've dedicated themselves to doing something different, and they haven't followed PlayStation and Microsoft, or Sony and Microsoft, down the rabbit hole that is graphics and power and RAM and they are dedicated to a different style of play. And sometimes that that distances themselves from the rest of the pack, and sometimes that's a good thing. Other times it's not so good. But yeah, the kind of game that you like to play doesn't necessarily say anything about you. It just says that you like to play that game. If I like BioShock and you like
Call of Duty.
or Call of Duty, or you like what's that game with the animals? Animal
Viva
Crossing.
Pinata?
They're all games.
Viva Pinata, what?
And just that you're gaming is what should count, really. And I'm glad that people from Microsoft and Sony are giving their regards, because it's all one family ultimately. If that makes any sense. I don't know what I just said, but
It made sense to me, actually.
It made sense to me. I felt the feels.
Well,
I'm glad.
in any case, very sad, but I think that he wouldn't want us reveling in sadness. He would want us to continue on and game and love what he was passionate about.
Indeed.
Yep.
Speaking of passion and fun, I've been hearing a lot of rumors circulating everywhere about the new console for that Nintendo's getting ready to push out. There's rumors that they've got a new console under development, that it's going to either replace the Wii U or try to go after a different market. And I wanted to know what we found, because I found a video that's rather odd. It claims to be a video that was shown to a shareholders meeting. I'll link it in the description below. I'll link the video itself, but I also want to link this one guy who breaks down the video and gives his opinion. I really like him. I'll look up his name in a moment. I feel kind of stupid. Hang on. Oh my god! Panic! Yeah, it was a video from someone on YouTube named EW Network. And he's a really cool dude, and he's a big nerd, just like us. And he breaks down the shareholders meeting step by step of why he thinks that this may be either like a real reveal or if it's fake. So supposedly it has a special controller, and the controller has a e-reader on it that allows you to scan those little plastic amiibos. Thank you. Those little amiibos and those little amiibos. And it's very traditionally structured. It looks kind of like an Xbox controller. In fact, I think it has the exact same shape as the the Boomerang controller that Xbox made. Only, of course, the D-pad and the thumbsticks are rearranged because of reasons. But at the same time, I'm very skeptical about that simply because, like, there's a lot of things in the video that just don't really make much sense. It claims that the system will be able to live stream to any device, such as tablets, smartphones, PCs, to where you're running the game on the console, but you're playing it elsewhere on a tablet. That sounds like an amazing engineering feat. The new console looks exactly like a Wii U, except it's black, which is, that could be easily photoshopped. There's no, like, smoking gun that it's fake, but it's just everything in it just feels a little weird. We hear someone speaking in Japanese at the very beginning, to which I can't identify their voice. But the splash page at the very beginning is written in Japanese, and then everything else in the video is in English. So that right there makes me at least a little, it makes me quirk an eyebrow at least. It says, let me find the details. Here we go. Powerful new console, new controller, new software for it's called the Nintendo Cross. Streams to all Nintendo Cross, Wii U, and Nintendo 3DS games to your touchscreen devices. Early access games. And let's see, anything else you got for me?
I'm looking at the video now, and it looks like you can use an iPad, an Android tablet, or the Wii U controller. Is that your impression? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, looks like that. And the Wii U gamepad. So, who knows?
I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard some speculation that it's not going to be anywhere near as powerful as the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, which I guess
Which is
in the long, like a lot of people are complaining about that, and that's just a rumor, so I don't see why everyone has their panties all in a bunch over it. And B, like, what are you expecting? Do you need to see Mario sweat or something?
I've had that same thought. Because I've had the desire for Nintendo to finally come out with a system that can compete in the power range with the Xbox or PlayStation. But on the other hand, their biggest IPs like Mario, they don't need a lot of power to make a Mario game. That's not the point of a Mario game. It's not photorealistic. You don't need cinemas and all these fancy animations to make a Mario game. And so you don't really need that power ultimately for Nintendo.
Our new Mario game is going to have physics-based rendering and dynamic volumetric lighting. It's like, why? But
running
supposedly
on the 666 engine.
666. I love Bethesda. But apparently the Nintendo Cross is going to have Jaguar architecture powered by AMD, 500 gigabytes of internal storage, and 8 gigs of system memory, which is great. That's on par with, most of the other stuff. But people always seem to forget, that I'm rubbing my eye. The PlayStation and the Xbox got their asses handed to them by the Wii, and the Wii was, by all standards, an inferior system when it came to hardware. It was all software and innovation and flat out really cool games that sold the system. And honestly, if we look at the history of consoles, all the way back to the first Nintendo system, the most powerful system normally loses because you have the loss of the Sega Genesis. You have the Xbox, the original Xbox, not doing as well as the PlayStation 2, which, the original Xbox kicked that thing's ass in terms of power, but the sales and the games simply weren't there in the beginning, and Xbox had a lot of trouble catching up. So, the most powerful systems honestly are completely irrelevant. And besides, I mean, the power of your system is, arcane architecture that most people don't even understand. So it's not like that's going to matter at all. I say as I look over at my PlayStation 3, which by all standards had more power than the Xbox 360, but the Xbox 360 did slightly better in terms of sales, and then the Wii crushed its ass. But, even though you have a powerful system, hello PS3, yes, I'm talking to you. Yeah, don't turn away from me. Yeah, you right there. You and your weird little cell architecture, screw you. It took so many man hours for developers to build a game for the PlayStation 3. And even then, it was hard for even Sony to tap into the power just because the architecture was weird and it was hard to get things to render properly. So yeah, I have high hopes for Nintendo, and if their system has a little lesser specs, I don't care. They're probably going to do well simply because of the games that they make.
One of the speculations that I've been picking up on is that Nintendo will end the era of relying on two systems. So, for a really long time, they've had this two-pronged approach. They've had the handheld, and then they've had the console. So, the Game Boy Advance with the GameCube, and then we get the DS, and now we have the 3DS, and that's come in the same era as the Wii and the Wii U, respectively. A lot of people are thinking that they're going to join those markets and make something that is a combination console and handheld. This cross thing seems to be emulating that. I'm a little skeptical on this video. I'm gonna have to watch a little bit more and research. I kind of doubt that this is something that they are officially working on, but it could be. It could be. But what do you guys think of having a console that is both handheld and kind of a hybrid of the handheld and home console?
Hopefully it's not going to be too heavy.
Yes.
That's all I have to really say about it.
Yeah, I originally kind of thought that's what the Wii U would do, just because when speculation came out about it, a lot of people were saying because it had a screen on the controller, you'd be able to take it away from your house and play it at work or whatever, and then it came out, and it turns out you can play it at other parts of your house, but it depends on how far away you are from the Wi-Fi on the system, which is a bummer, because I was really excited to not have to go out and buy a 3DS to play games away from the house, which is another thing that kind of sucks, and I think Nintendo really needs to fix in a way, is the fact that if you want to play a game on your home console and then you also want to play it on your handheld while you're away from home, you have to buy two separate game title, or the same title of course, but two separate games for both consoles, and that just seems kind of a bummer to me.
Yeah.
So you have to go into like the Wii store and buy it, and then in the 3DS store buy it again.
Yes.
Basically.
It's not tied to your account. So
Ouch.
you basically, like if you wanted to play Monster Hunter, for example, on your 3DS while you're at work, but when you get home, of course you don't want to play on the small screen, you want to play on your television. Well, you have to buy it for Wii as well to play it on your television.
Yeah, that needs to be fixed. Definitely. So, what do we want out of this next console? the NX, as they're calling it. First up, I hope they keep that name. One of the things that slightly disappointed me in 2006 was, or before then, Nintendo had the Revolution. It was the code name Revolution, and I thought that was such a sick name. And when it finally came out, it was the Wii. And yeah, someone had to explain to me what that meant. I'm like, oh, okay, And the NX, it says nothing, but it says everything. And
Yeah,
it speaks to a more mature audience, which I think Nintendo should try to go after. Um,
I agree.
that's one of my problems is they've made a lot of games for children, which is fine. Children need games, yes. They need good games, and they need games that you aren't killing people. But I would like to play, not necessarily killing games, but I'd like to play games that challenge me at a intellectual level, at an emotional level, and maybe that's where my disappointment lies. Is I haven't felt like I have gotten that from Nintendo in a long time.
I do like where the direction they're going with Splatoon, because Splatoon is such a different game than you would expect from Nintendo. And I like that they're branching out into a more competitive, faster pace gaming market, because that allows that allows more people to get in on it. And like Splatoon still has their family friendly,
Yeah,
squeaky clean image,
it's
but
so
it's yeah.
it can appeal to so many people, and that's why I love it. And I'm like, yes, Nintendo, you can still create awesome stuff. This is a brand new IP, and I love Mario, but it seems like there's a billion Mario games on the Wii U, and I want them to be more creative, because in this generation, I think where Wii U failed is they completely lost the third party market, and and the best games were made by Nintendo. And hey, yeah, Nintendo will make a new game every so often. So, um, good luck finding a good game this season for you. But they really need to capture more people and attract them.
That
And they need to
point,
also work on their marketing.
that point you just made, Jordan, was a point that I wanted to make earlier, actually. You mentioned earlier that the Wii was being seen as like a gimmick. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the word I'm seeing when it comes to the NX and discussions about the NX and previous Nintendo consoles. Is a lot of people feel that the Wii and the Wii U were basically the same thing. Both were gimmicky, and they were really hard to program for different third party devs. So they, like, third party devs just finally decided, screw this. We don't want to program for a stick that you move back and forth. We don't want to program for a touch screen controller that's backwards from all of the other controllers. And they basically abandoned so many different titles because of that. And a lot of people argued that third parties make and break consoles, and I have to agree. Um, Especially when you consider that Nintendo aren't making their most popular games as often. For big as they are, with their own pipe to their own consoles, how many games do they make a year? I mean, how long have we waited for a new Metroid or Zelda? And now that they're releasing those things through E3 of this year, a lot of people are excited, but it's been a while, and the thing that most people have to rely on are third party games, which you don't get on the Wii U or the Wii because of the fact that they're just really hard to program. And that's the thing with Nintendo, is that they have such great ideas and they're always really innovative, but in the end, sooner or later, that innovation's just going to kill them when it comes to the third party market.
Is it sad that I thought that the Wii U was just like a controller and that was it. I didn't know it was a brand new system.
Seriously?
Yeah, like no,
Seriously?
that's how bad the marketing was that they were not, in my mind, clear enough, and uh uh they were not unambiguous with what the Wii U was, what it stood for, what was different from it. They didn't contrast it enough. So the moment that I saw the Wii U, I thought, okay, so we get another controller. What else do we get? Because like they have a million peripherals for the Wii, and I thought that the Wii U was like, okay, you plug in the controller and somehow things get better. And it was only until, I swear, I think it was like a few weeks ago that uh, I was watching a video. I think it was like top 10 fails of Nintendo, and one of them was, criticizing the marketing of the Wii U and explaining just what I explained. And like the moment that he said, most people didn't even know that it was a different console. And I'm like, wait, what? It was a different console? So whatever they're coming out with, I want them to wow us, and I want them to explain in detail how this is going to change things. And no more weird, crazy advertisements that don't explain anything. Because I don't like ads that don't explain anything. Yes, they can be silly, but in the end, you're supposed to, sell me the product, not weird me out.
I've heard of that happening, and I've never met anyone in the wild that that had that idea. But I can understand where it comes from, and finally I see the difference in something like a PlayStation 2 and a Wii U. I'm like, well, for a long time I've thought about that difference. I'm like, well, the Wii U, what a dumb name. It is a really, really dumb name. And I'm like, well, what's the difference between that and just adding a 2 to it? Well, I guess the difference is people know that the PlayStation 2 is not something connected to the PlayStation in as much as it's just the sequel. The Wii U doesn't inherently tell you that it's the predecessor, or no, that's the right word. People don't inherently know that it's the sequel to Wii. It could be something like the balance board. So that's a really good point, and don't feel bad for confusing that, because I can see how that can be confused. But
I still feel like an idiot.
It's all right.
But speaking of, I'm not going to rag too hard on Nintendo for that. But what I will rag on, damn it, is I absolutely hate Microsoft's naming convention when it came to the Xbox. You get the Xbox, then you get the Xbox 360 for whatever reason. And then, I remember, someone at Microsoft said that we named it the 360 because we feel it's going to turn the video game industry around. And I'm like, all the way around. Back where we started. What? And then we have the Xbox One. And I'm like, I want to just choke anyone who named their Xbox. Because we used to call the Xbox One. And then the Xbox 360, and then the Xbox One, the X-Bone came out.
Yeah, I was going to say the X-Bone.
X-Bone, it will always be X-Bone in my mind, because one, screw you people, two, stupid names, unclear, ambiguous, tripe.
I have a lot of problems with Microsoft this generation, but that I will bring up maybe later in a different discussion. But I did some research because I knew that Wii U wasn't as good as Wii. Currently, there's only 10 million units sold. PlayStation 4 sold about 9 million in 6 weeks, if my memory serves me correctly. And so, it's 3 years old, the Wii U. And so clearly there is a problem. While I'm not a scientist, I am a man of science, and I appreciate science, so I wanted to try to find some real figures. And I started thinking, like, why is the Wii U not as good as the Wii? And I thought, let me look at the launch titles, because I remember the Wii had Twilight Princess, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess at launch, which was an incredible game. I love that game. So I'm like, oh, I bet it's in the launch titles. So I started looking at the launch titles. And actually, the Wii doesn't have all that great of launch titles. It's got things like Red Steel, Happy Feet, Cars, a lot of throwaway wear. And I'm like, well, let me look at the Wii U launch titles. And some of these were pretty good games. We've got Black Ops 2. We've got Epic Mickey 2. We've got Ninja Gaiden 3. So, some mature games like Batman. So I'm like, all right, so maybe the Wii U is better than I thought it was. And I did the math, and using Metacritic, the average score of all the launch titles together averages out about the same. So I'm like, wow, that was not what I thought would happen. Maybe I'm looking at something wrong here, and I haven't thought about it enough. But the numbers, though, on the games alone, we've got about 1,500 titles for the Wii, and we only have about 660 titles for the Wii U. GameCube had 662, for those of you doing math at home. So we get a sense of where the Wii U is at. There are some good titles out there. There just aren't a lot of titles to be had. And maybe ultimately that is the problem, is that they just haven't put out games for people to buy. And possibly I'm overthinking this. But yeah, so I don't ultimately know where Wii U went wrong other than that. I'm thinking maybe their innovation was a short-term boom, but a long-term bust. In that, in the Wii era, this 1,500 title number sounds awesome, but you got to think of a lot of the shovelware that came onto the Wii, and so it attracted a lot of developers. Not a lot of them were that great, and a lot of the games kind of sucked, and that might have scared off serious developers for developing for the Wii. And so when the Wii U came out, they had lost that serious developer crowd, and they didn't have a funky motion peripheral for crappy developers to come to, and so they were kind of left out in the cold just by themselves.
Here's hoping that their new system, whatever it is, addresses these concerns and gives the industry a kick in the pants. Because I love it when, the game industry gets shaken up and weird things happen. Like at E3 this year, Bethesda announced at the Xbox, or at the Microsoft conference, that Fallout 4 would have mods on console, and you'd be able to mod your game on console, which is something that has been unheard of without physically hacking your machine. And like journalists were asking other developers, like the developers of Just Cause 3, they would ask them, so we hear you're going to have mod support for PC, but are you going to have mod support for Xbox? And the developers were like, wow, that would be amazing. We feel that Bethesda did something magical. We don't know how they did that. And it's whenever innovative things like that happen in the game industry, that's when we start seeing real change. And I want Nintendo to come back into the limelight and just give the whole industry one big shove into uncomfortable territory, so that we can have further development and further innovation.
Steph, are you a fan of Nintendo much?
I'm not a fan of Nintendo. there aren't a lot of Nintendo games that I played. Like, we had a discussion in, I believe, episode 3 of VideoGrimes, where we talked about our childhood games, and I admitted that I grew up with the Sega rather than the Nintendo, and played a lot more of Sonic than Mario, but I played a few Nintendo games, and I don't hate them. I don't dislike the company at all. If it weren't for Nintendo, we probably wouldn't have near as many games as we do. I totally respect them and appreciate everything that they do. And I get excited about some games that come out, but I'm not really a huge console person in general. I tend to just stick to Steam because I don't really like using a controller, which is weird because it's the thing that I started playing games on, was like Call of Duty and all of the other shooters that you're supposed to use a mouse and keyboard with. I just refused and was like, no, I'm using my controller, don't tell me what to do. And now I just can't stand to use the controller unless it's for a game that just absolutely doesn't work unless you use a controller.
You actually
Like fighting games.
kind of answered my question. I was going to ask you what was it that didn't draw you to Nintendo, knowing that you weren't a huge fan, like myself maybe, but so it's more a combination of happenstance and preference then?
Pretty much. And I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm not a fan, I'm just not an enthusiast, I guess I'd rather word it that way. Saying I'm not a fan makes it seem like I don't like the company in some ways, and that's not at all true. There's nothing that I don't like about them. It's just I could play Super Mario Galaxy, or I could play Counter-Strike, and I move towards those kind of games more, and that's pretty much just it. I mentioned to Jordan a while back that I was really excited for Splatoon, which I'm not entirely sure what company made that. I don't think it was a Nintendo game. Do either
I'll
of
have
you
to
know?
look that up. What could Nintendo do to attract you as a better consumer of their content?
Honestly, I don't think that there's anything that they really could do to attract me. Like I said earlier, I'm just really not interested in consoles anymore. I bought the Wii U to play a game that most people buy a console and say, I want this console because I love the company, or I want this console because there are so many games I want on it. But for me, it was like the Bayonetta team said, okay, we're done with Bayonetta 1, but we're only releasing Bayonetta 2 to people that own a Wii U. So that was why I went out and bought a Wii U. If one of my favorite games, say hypothetically, as we were talking about in the last episode, that Silent Hills went through, but was only made for the Wii, like the next generation Wii or whatever they want to call it, the next generation of Nintendo consoles. If they only released the new Silent Hill game on that console and it looked good enough to play, I would buy the console just for that game. But I wouldn't buy the console for any other reason because honestly, like, there aren't a lot of Nintendo games that I'm a super huge fan of. My fiance, on the other hand, would probably want to buy it for Legend of Zelda and Super Smash Brothers and Pokemon and all of that good stuff, but I just didn't grow up playing that stuff, so it's not as interesting to me.
Link loved his Pokemon. You said that you love that you grew up on Sega. Have you heard about the recent news from Sega?
I have not.
Sega's president Hajime Satomi came out with a statement, and Sega basically apologized to the fans for betraying their trust for so many years. And he acknowledges that over the past 10 years, Sega has not done well at all and has shoveled out, crappy Sonic game after crappy Sonic game after crappy Sonic game. And just basically everything that they've made so far has been so low quality that it's become a butt of a joke. And he like wholeheartedly apologizes for basically ruining the brand after the 90s. But he ends on a positive note saying that the next announcement that they're going to be making at the Tokyo Game Show in September is going to win all those fans back. Apparently, Sega is planning something big for Tokyo Game Show this September, and I'm really excited about it because there's a lot of Sega titles that I grew up not being able to play, mainly because my mom thought that some of them were a little violent, because that was kind of how they marketed themselves, was, targeting a teen demographic, and I was like, 7 and 8 years old when Sega started becoming badass, so, oh well, missed that part. But I'm really excited about this because I want to see Sega come back and really kick ass. One thing, though, I do not want them to have the console. Flat out, Sega should never, ever build a console. They should focus 100% on games, and they should put their games on as many platforms as possible.
Sega and Nintendo share this really interesting relationship, which their early days were very formative, and they ruled the console wars with iron fists. And the Dreamcast happened, and that was very sad because it killed Sega's console market. And now they're just producing games. And I actually am not familiar with their current track record. I understand and know that Sonic is a huge debacle. I'm so glad that he can apologize for that because it is a joke. The Sonic games are trash now.
I love watching the Game Grumps play Sonic games.
Yeah,
That is the best entertainment.
And a lot of people are kind of calling for Nintendo to do that same thing of get out of the hardware market and just focus on software and game development. I don't know if that's the best idea. I kind of like Nintendo making systems still. I don't know where you guys fall on that.
Steph?
Sean, you said a minute ago all of that stuff about Sega, and that's actually really cool. But at the same time, I'm kind of pissed off at Sega. I don't know if any of you guys know about this, but apparently Sega just doesn't understand social media or the internet at all. Total Biscuit and I believe PBG and a few other different, what would you call them? What would you call Total Biscuit?
Video game journalist?
I wouldn't necessarily call him a journalist, but I guess that makes the most sense.
Commentator?
Yeah, video game commentator. He reviewed some of their games, as he does. That's his job. And Sega threw up a copyright infringement against him on YouTube and had all of the videos that had to do with their company taken down and did it for everyone on YouTube because apparently they think that it's not okay to review their stuff. And that's something that I think is really stupid. That's a really stupid way to think, in my opinion. Because commentator videos make people interested in games. There are so many games that I would never have even looked at if it weren't for seeing a review of it on YouTube or seeing the Game Grumps play it and talk about it.
Yeah, and Nintendo kind of got into that too. It's a scattershot of who will get butthurt over putting something on YouTube and who won't. But yeah, to every single game company that has and ever will exist, don't piss off your fans by censoring what they think, because if you make a bad game and it's a bad game, you should take that criticism, swallow it, and learn from it, because that's what criticism is. And anyone who flat out refuses to listen to criticism, I have no respect for.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that Sega can win our respect back, because honestly, I feel in some ways they do deserve to earn respect, if that makes any sense. But I wholeheartedly feel that they should stay 100% away from hardware, because they've done so much damage to their own brand in the countless of ways, that the only way to fix that is to make games for literally every system and make them good. I don't care if they have to like scalp people from other companies in order to do. Hell, hey, Kojima's about to quit his job at Konami. Sega, hire this man and get him on some projects. I'm pretty sure you're going to have something good come out of that.
I
Oh,
really
yeah.
just want him working for Square Enix. Please.
Oh my god, yes, Square Enix,
Help
yes.
Final Fantasy be good.
Final Fantasy, my ass! I want some. I want some Hideo Kojima in on my Just Cause.
I've never
I want him
played
to-
Just Cause, so
It's amazing. Oh my god, I have to rant about that at some point. Oh my god,
It's bonkers in the good.
It's bonkers.
It's in a
It
good
is-
way. Yeah.
oh, it's nuts. Just Cause is incredible. We will talk about that next episode, because we want to involve you in more E3 news. Because let's face it, there's so much E3. There's so much to talk about. Next time on VideoGrimes. Switching gears, before we end this episode of VideoGrimes, I would like to ask everyone what you've been playing. I'll start with Jordan.
I have been playing Fez. I actually completed Fez last week, and it is a fantastic game. If you have not played Fez, do yourself a favor and play that. It is brilliant in its design and execution. There was not a moment that I just did not have sheer pleasure in playing it. It's challenging in its puzzle pieces and things, but it's just so darn fun and easy to play. Yeah, it was such a great
That's the game where you change perspective.
Yes.
It's a 2D environment, but you change perspective,
Yes,
and that.
and it seems like
yeah.
a simple mechanic, but it adds so much to the game. It adds exactly 4 times to the game, actually, if you want to be correct about it.
Haha.
Yeah, you see what I did there? Math. But yeah, it's got some controversy because Phil Fish, blah blah blah. But if you haven't played it and you're not playing it because of Phil Fish, you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to play
Phil
Fez.
Fish. I hate him to death, but I would agree with you. Wholeheartedly, 100%. No matter how much you hate on Phil Fish, when you see it on sale on Steam, buy it, play it, and you'll love it.
He made something spectacularly
yeah.
great. So, yeah.
Tell me about the controversy about him, because this is the first time I'm hearing his name.
You probably could tell more about it, Steph, but in short, and I'll let you fill in the rest. He was developing this game with another person, and something happened, and there was some legal controversy between the two of them, and it took a really long time for him to make it, because basically he was making it by himself, and I don't think people should really criticize him for that. But he does, I believe, say some really boneheaded things on the internet. I'll let you take it from here.
There's just so much. Honestly, if you really want to know, just not just for Sean, but for the fans as well, go to Reddit. Go to Explain Like I'm 5 and ask, and they will love to just sit and send you all of the inflammatory tweets he's made, all of the posts to Twitter and Facebook about how much he hates gamers and hates his fans, and basically, at one point, he just cracked under the pressure from the media and the fans, and of course, because it's the internet, the trolls, and said, well, you know what? You guys don't earn a Fez 2, and you don't get a Fez 2. I'm done making video games. I'm out. Deleted his Twitter account, and Fez 2 is still, to my knowledge, not gonna be a thing. He literally did quit the industry.
I don't know if I want a Fez 2, though.
TLDR being that he is actually kind of a giant douchebag, constantly making really terrible comments and posts to Facebook and Twitter, and really just seeming like he hated being in the gaming industry to begin with, and it just wasn't something that he wanted to do, even though it was his job, and he obviously enjoyed it, making a game that's so awesome. It makes a lot of people very upset. Sorry. It just makes a lot of people very upset.
If you want more background into Phil Fish, also, I would, as well as Fez and other games, check out the 2007 documentary Indie Game, the movie, and it features Phil Fish as well as the creators of Super Meat Boy and Braid, and kind of it investigates the indie game and you know what goes into developing an indie game and the spirit of an indie game, and it's a really cool watch. And I saw that, I'm like, I want to play that game, and so I finally did and loved it.
FYI, you can buy the movie on Steam, which I would suggest.
True story.
Cool. I've been playing a game called Legend of Korra, trademark, the game.
Oh.
And it is amazing. It was developed by Platinum Games, which are known for their really tight controls and really good gameplay. Published by Activision, and of course, Nickelodeon spearheaded everything. I bought it on Steam for like $3, and I bought it kind of like I did Just Cause 2, of the price alone said, nope, buying that. And I have mixed feelings about it, because the gameplay is so good. You feel the power of being Avatar Korra. It's based in the same... It's like between seasons, I want to say 2 and 3 of Legend of Korra. And I love Avatar The Last Airbender. I love those cartoons. They're amazing. And this game has in every way captured what it's like to be an avatar, and bending in general. You can switch your stance between using the 4 elements, and in the very beginning of the game, you get your powers taken away from you, and you can only fight barehanded. Well, you can still switch between the styles, and you're using, Kung Fu, Tai Chi, and all these other martial arts styles to fight off, generic bad guys. And it feels amazing. The combat is so rich for what it is. It's like a fighting game on the move. And you get your ass handed to you until you start learning your enemies. And I described it to a friend of mine, saying that it's like a fighting game met Dark Souls, and then slapped a, rated E for everyone label on it. Because the combat's really, really difficult until you start learning and mastering it. And I have nothing but praise for how they built the game mechanically. The problem is that the story is non-existent. There's a bad guy, he's doing bad things, stop him. That is literally it. And it does not lend itself well to the lore of the universe, and it they only got two. Well, never mind. They got three voice actors from the original show to play in it. One of which is Steve Bloom, which that's why I forgot him, because I'm sorry, Steve Bloom, I love you. You're in everything. So the moment I heard, your voice, I was like, "Oh, hi Steve Bloom, how you doing? Welcome back. You're back into the Avatar series. Welcome back. You're a villain yet again. How do you feel?" But and the game is so short. It is so painfully short, and there's these stupid mini games in between each level, where it's basically like a temple runner game where you're running around and you try not to hit the walls, basically.
Oh, those are annoying.
Yeah, it was an annoying mini game that didn't need to be there. So cut that thing right the hell out. And uh, I honestly want Platinum Games and Activision and Nickelodeon to remake this game in the Avatar universe, but make it your own story. Actually go buck wild with this, because you have a fantastic engine as far as I can feel. The performance was solid on my PC. So keep the same engine, make improvements where you need them, and make this a truly epic game, because the combat, the mechanics behind it, there is so much potential in just how the game functions that you could extrapolate this into almost anything else and make a fantastic game out of it, and make it long and interesting and complex. So yeah, the story is bad, but the gameplay. If you want to kick ass like Korra, if you want to feel what it feels like to be Korra, get this game. It does not disappoint.
I'm looking at it right now, and it looks really great.
The animations are stellar, and I am such a Korra fanboy, and just being able to run around and kick people's butts was amazing. But there's so much to this world. That's the problem, is that we basically go from set piece to set piece with no idea what we're doing. There's so much to the Avatar world that if you were to take these same mechanics and incorporate them into either an open world game, this would be perfect for an open world game. Especially just the ability to move around. Bending allows for so many options in terms of player mobility throughout an environment. And I feel that this game would be the best as a game that lasted 20 plus hours. But for the storyline in this, if you don't get your ass kicked repeatedly like I did, you can probably play through the entire story in 4 hours. In fact, let me look on Steam real quick. I have precisely, stalling for time, looking it up, Legend of Korra. I have 7 hours played on it and already beat the story. And that's me getting my butt kicked a lot. So yeah, this game needs to be a hell of a lot longer and a lot bigger in scale.
One of my friends actually messaged me a few days ago and said that it sounded like something I may like. So after having two people tell me that it's a great game, I may have to look into that.
It's also turned me on to Platinum Games, because if they make stuff like this on a regular basis, I'm gonna buy a Platinum Games game.
Dude, Platinum Games is who made Bayonetta. You need that in your life.
Well, now, there we go then. I guess that settles that. Yeah.
You really should, after we're finished, watch a trailer for Bayonetta, and you'll immediately fall in love.
That's one of the games that I would buy almost instantly if I had a Wii U. I really want to play that.
As I mentioned earlier, that's why I bought the Wii U.
Right,
I loved the first game so much that I went out and bought a console so that I could play the sequel.
Legend of Korra, trademark. It's totally a gateway drug to other Platinum games.
I don't have too much to talk about. The new patch for Terraria came out a few
Yay, what did they add?
weeks back, and it's great. Do either of you?
Did they add anything new? What they add?
They added a few new bosses, different areas of biomes. They unlocked some new stuff. Achievements are a thing now. Lots of different equipment that you can equip, and is really awesome, honestly. But yeah, it's a game that my fiance Link is addicted to, as well as Minecraft, and he kind of stopped playing Minecraft to play the new Terraria patch and is just in love with it to death. So that's what I've been playing. That and a little bit of Heroes of the Storm every so often, which is a new, or not really new, but a Blizzard game for those who didn't know.
Yay.
Nice.
The TeamSpeak server is totally capable of running a Terraria server, and we've been playing Terraria for a while off and on. Whenever there's a patch, we always go just crazy with it. So we might be able to get a Terraria server so we can play.
Oh, well, Terraria actually, like, with the new patch, it runs straight through Steam, so you don't have to use something like TeamSpeak or Hamachi to run
Oh, finally.
a multiplayer server. Yes. I can't believe I didn't mention that. Like, that is a really big thing that was added, is now it is officially able to run through Steam. All you have to do is click next to the arrow on someone's name, click join game, and join the fucking game. It's amazing.
Finally, native online support. It feels like that should have been a thing because we had to use a Game Ranger to tunnel through and connect to people.
Yeah, same. When Link first got into it, we ended up downloading and having to use Hamachi. So that was a huge pain in the butt, and we were not happy about it. It seemed like it ran really sketchy half the time. Like, so many people had lag, and at one point
we crashed all the time.
Yeah, at one point, Link was running across the world, and I got to a point, and it was like the world just ended, and there was blank space, but he was just standing there.
Yep.
And I actually have that as one of the screenshots on my profile, is him and I discussing in-game, like, it just ends in a giant chasm, and you're standing on air.
It was great. Yeah, we crashed all the time. It was almost assured whenever you're breaking blocks and you realize that you're not collecting anything, you're like, oh, I'm lagging, and you just flat out close out, because it would take the game like, it would take like a minute, a solid 60 seconds before the game would go, oh, you're not connected to the server, crash. So you would just close out and restart. We called it the poor man's teleport.
It's
because
now,
you have to use the...
Yeah, it's now fixed completely. So the second that you lose connection, or the server goes down, or Steam starts maintenance, it's like, you're done. Kicked.
Good. Because yeah, it would we got so used to closing out that it became a habit of, if you didn't carry a magic mirror with you and you wanted to go back to the base, it would just be, poor man teleport, and you just close out the game, restart the game, and you'd be back at the home village where everyone spawns.
I always have such a hard time explaining Terraria because I want to immediately say it's kind of like Minecraft, but not really.
It's Minecraft if the developers said yes to every silly suggestion, like lightsabers and guns and amazing things.
RPG elements.
Yeah, it's more of a combat game, flat out. Like, it's more focused on player progression rather than player creativity, I would say. Even though you can build some really beautiful things, and I suck at building in Terraria. I'm great in, like, me and my friend, Hardcase is amazing at building things in Terraria in a two-dimensional platform. I suck at it. And then he walks into one of my houses in Minecraft and he's like, how did you build all this? This is amazing. And I'm like, what? I'm an interior decorator. I like making things pretty. And he's like, I can't do 3D. How do you 3D? I'm like, I can't 2D. How do you 2D?
Link blows my mind because he's just amazing at building in both worlds. So I've been playing Terraria with him a lot, and we were having a really hard time with the boss. And we had tried fighting this boss like 20 or 30 times and just could not kill the freaking boss. And Link was like, I'm kind of curious. Because this boss flies and we can't move fast enough, do you think if I built a minecart that went in a circle and we both got on the minecart, that we could go around in a circle and just kill him that way? So he built a minecart that went in a circle, and very first time we tried it, killed the boss. So he says, okay, well, we're calling this Mr. Bones' Wild Ride, because the boss we fought was Skeletron. And
that's brilliant.
Yeah, I come back a day later, and it looks like a freaking roller coaster. It has a skeleton in the middle. He has the tiles that say Mr. Bones' Wild Ride, like, placed above the roller coaster, so to speak. And it's all lit up and shoots fireworks while you're riding it.
See,
Brilliant.
The most we did to defeat Skeletor, or Skeletron, Skeletor, curse you, He-Man! To defeat Skeletron, what we did was we just built a bunch of platforms, and we called it Build a Jungle Gym. And we just built a jungle gym out of platforms to where we could freely jump from, like, multiple different platforms at once, different altitudes. So it was almost like we could fly just as fast as he could. And we would just... And this thing was huge. It was like, it was bigger than our village, and it was just nothing but wooden platforms. So, like, of course, one of our power gamer friends built the thing, so of course he went for efficiency. So, not as creative as the minecarts, unfortunately, but I still like our jungle gyms.
Have you played it since the patch?
Not this patch. In fact, I think I've missed a couple of patches, so I'm gonna come in and I'm not gonna recognize anything. Like the last thing I remember was bees.
Dude, you are gonna love it. You're gonna love it so much. I wasn't even a huge fan of Terraria until this patch came out, and now it's pretty much been the only thing that I've played over Counter-Strike and Heroes of the Storm. And if I'm playing something more than Counter-Strike, there's a problem.
Oh yeah. With that, I'd like to wrap up this episode of VideoGrimes. Thank you everybody for listening. Again, our hearts go out to the colleagues, friends, and family of Mr. Iwata, and to Nintendo. I look forward to everything that you have to show us, and I believe in everyone at Nintendo because all of you do amazing work. Thank you, Jordan and Steph, for coming on and talking about one of our favorite people in gaming.
You're welcome.
VideoGrimes' theme song is Eat My Chips by Azure Flux. Our script supervisor is Steph. Our website director is JordanAech. And I'm Sean Sprinkle. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye!
Bye, guys!
See ya!